When I was in 5th grade, I used to walk across the street after school to my buddy Chris's house. We used to go skateboard, hang out, play games. Well, one day we walked into his house and there's this giant box sitting in the middle of the living room. His dad walks in, "Boys, figure out how to put that thing together." And he walked out. Chris and I looked at each other and started tearing into this box and pulling out packaging and cords. Now, you know how some people can just walk into a shop or a garage and pick up a tool and they just inherently know what to do with it? That was like this for us. We started looking at the cords and the colors and the icons on the ends of them and plugging everything up, and before you knew it, we got this thing powered on. It was a computer. 2 weeks later, we heard the sound of the internet for the first time. Now, it felt like a whole new world, because it was. 3 years later, my family got a computer of our own. And my curiosity for this new technology never ceased. I wanted to learn everything I could about it. Downloading, uploading, new software. I remember connecting with my friends at school using early chat applications before smartphones were even a thing. Now, some kids, they don't know what they want to do when they grow up. For me, I was a little bit different. I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I grew up in a highly disciplined, highly structured household. Karate 2 nights a week, soccer 3 nights a week, church on Sundays. I was raised by 2 incredible parents, a father, Vietnam veteran, Purple Heart recipient, my mother, an educator who had us volunteering at church a lot, and a brother, 9 years older than me in law enforcement. I too planned on going into law enforcement. I wanted to make my way to the FBI. But first, I wanted nothing more than to earn the title of United States Marine. So when I was 17, I walked straight into the recruiter's office. I see Staff Sergeant Reese sitting on the other side of the desk. "Hello, sir. I'm here to join the Marines." He looked at me and said, "Okay, well, take a seat. Let's get some basic information from you." He starts pulling out pamphlets and brochures, kind of to sell me on the idea of it. "Sir, I already know what I want to do. I'm just here to sign the contract." Well, it turns out you can't just sign yourself up for the military when you're 17 without your parents' permission. So it was no secret what I was up to. A few weeks later, we sat down at my kitchen table with my parents and went through the process of signing all the paperwork. A month later, I wake up for school one morning and I walk into the living room. I see my mom sitting at the edge of the couch with her eyes fixated on the TV, with a horrified look on her face. It was September 11, 2001. I went to school that day. There was a somber feeling in the air. My friends that knew I had recently enlisted were coming up to me asking me questions that I didn't know the answers to. And as the day progressed, it became more and more apparent that our country would be calling on Marines to do what Marines do. So I got home from school that afternoon. I get a call from Staff Sergeant Reese. "Fite, got good news, I've got bad news. What do you want first?" I guess I hadn't had enough that day. "I'll take the bad news. The bad news is you're going to be leaving the boot camp a lot sooner than you expected. The good news, you're going to be a Marine a lot sooner than you expected." So 10 days after I graduated high school, I always laugh, my friends were on a plane headed to Cancun to go celebrate, and I was on a plane headed to Marine Corps Recruit Depot in San Diego, California. I spent 3 months in boot camp, a little less than a month in combat training, and 6 months in Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri for my military occupational school, and straight to Iraq. Less than a year after I graduated high school, I find myself being deployed in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom. One night, coming off of a mission, we were dropping our gear, and one of the Marines brought up the money we were making out there. Now, it wasn't a lot, but it was enough for a bunch of 18-year-olds in the middle of the desert to dream about what we might do with it when we got home. And our buddy Tabor chimed in, guys, I took a pay cut coming out here. A pay cut? What do you do? He explained his family was investing in real estate and had businesses back home in Florida, and my curiosity was piqued. I started asking him all kinds of questions. He kind of laughed at me. Well, if you're that curious about it, let's go back to the tent and I'll explain some things to you. So we walk back to the tent, have a seat on his cot. He reaches into his pack and pulls out a little yellow notepad, starts jotting down a bunch of numbers, essentially explaining the structure of a profitable real estate deal and how his businesses back home worked. Then he reaches back into his pack and pulls out a book and hands it to me. Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki, also a fellow Marine. Over the next 2 weeks, I couldn't put this book down. And while there's plenty of paradigm shifts that I could talk about from this book, one of the things that impacted me the most was this idea that 9 out of 10 businesses fail. Now, that's enough to scare a lot of people away from entrepreneurship, but what I heard was, so you're telling me that all I have to do is fail as fast as I can 9 times, and on the 10th, I can become successful and avoid this rat race he talks about? Count me in. So I got home from Iraq, made my way back home, and I ended up reconnecting with one of my best friends from school, AJ. And we got to work failing, and trust me, we got good at it. One of our first ideas that we came up with was this idea called the poop butler. The poop butler. So for those of you with pets at home, you know how hard it can be to keep your yards clean. That's what we were doing. And while we saw a little success from it, we knew it wasn't going to be enough to make the dreams that we had talked about come true. So we got back to work. We kept at it. I started developing skills in the technology space. AJ focused on construction because that's what he was good at. And one day he calls me, hey, I bought a glass company. A glass company? Yeah, come check it out. So I go down to this building, I walk inside, and I see AJ sitting in the corner in this little makeshift office area. I sit down with him, and he starts explaining to me how this all came to be, and then he looks at me, so what do we do next? I thought for a second. Well, I know we need customers, and I think we need some file folders. I have no idea where that came from. So we hop in his truck, we drive down to Office Max, and we buy a package of file folders. We get back, we don't even have a filing cabinet to put these things in. But he did have some random bungee cord, so he connected to that and hung it up, and we got to work. In the coming years, I helped AJ grow that business, and I got involved with several others, and what I found out really quickly was that I loved using technology and my God-given creativity to help businesses find more customers, connect with their audiences, and grow. So I decided I'm going to start a custom technology company in Clovis, New Mexico, a little town on the eastern side of the state, not really an area known for being a tech hub. Freaked my parents out. Most of the people in my life had no idea what I was talking about half the time and really didn't even understand my vision. But I saw the trajectory of the world, and I was adamant about putting myself in front of it. So we got to work. Everything was going great. We rocked along there for a few years, and we hired our first 2 employees and started bringing on larger clients like the New Mexico State Police, when all of a sudden, one day out of nowhere in 2017, my large intestine ruptured. And I got air vac to Texas Tech Hospital in Lubbock, Texas for emergency surgery. My team sprung into action. They went and installed software on my desktop that allowed our other partner, Mike in North Carolina, to pour it in and grab the files that he needed to get our client work done. So we hit our deadlines and didn't skip a beat. I laid in ICU for a month and ran the company the best I could from my smartphone. We successfully navigated that situation because of God the incredible people I had in my life, and technology. Now, I'm proud to report that I've made a full recovery. We survived the COVID years. AJ went on to expand his glass company to Las Vegas, Nevada, where he works with some of the largest brands in the casinos on the Las Vegas Strip. We've grown our technology company, where we now work with some of the largest government agencies in New Mexico, building custom technology solutions and sitting at the intersection of curiosity, creativity, and emerging tech. And here we are, all of us together today, sitting at the cusp of a new era. Every day we're hearing more words like AI, blockchain, crypto, quantum. And we're at a time very similar to that time where Chris and I pulled the computer out of the box and heard the sound of the internet for the first time, not realizing how this technology was going to shape the world around us in the coming years. This is an invitation for all of us to get curious together, not to just blindly trust, but to ask better questions. What does this technology do? What is it for? How can it help us? How can it hurt us? Technology is a tool, and just like any tool, it's going to shape the world around us, largely dependent upon the intentions of those building what's next. So I wonder, what could New Mexico look like if enough of us got curious enough to build it differently?